The S25 Ultra was just released. I almost said S24 Ultra, but the S25 Ultra was released, and part of the reason why I almost said S24 Ultra was because the design is actually very similar, but different at the same time. So when you first pick up the S25 Ultra, the first thing you're going to notice is the new curved corners, which is a big upgrade from those sharp corners that we all hated basically, and the thinner bezels. So with the thinner bezels, the screen size got an upgrade. I'm not gonna just talk about specs like I usually do, but just hinting at a little bit of specs. It got 6.9 inches of screen space, just like the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So that means iPhone is no longer ahead in screen space. If I'm being completely honest, I kind of miss the old S24 Ultra design. Even though the design has barely changed for so many years since like the S22 Ultra, it still felt like the Ultra phones. With this new S25 Ultra, it's like a new design, and I'm not used to it yet. I'll get used to it, but I can't help but like the OG better. It definitely does not help that the colors are very plain, but at least that the blue option, the light blue option for the Ultra phone is not a Samsung online exclusive, and that's a good thing because that was my favorite. My favorite phone when it comes to color was the iPhone 13 Pro Max blue option. I don't remember the exact name of the blue, but that was my favorite blue. I'll pop it up on the screen so you can see, but they came with this lighter version that I wish it was a little darker, but it's called Titanium Silver Blue. Yeah, they have two parts to their color names now. I don't know where they got that from, but creative, I guess. Some other color options are titanium gray, titanium black, and titanium white silver. White silver, again, with the two-part color names, but once again, creative. The frame is flatter, just like the iPhones, but I mean, that makes it more modern and gives it a better look, like a better futuristic look. But at the same time, it's like they took the sharp corners and added it onto the sides, because that does kind of feel sharp. And the titanium did get stronger, obviously, and so did the glass. The glass is much stronger. It's more anti-reflective. That was one of the key things with the S24 Ultra, and they made it even better with the S25 Ultra. Not only that, there was something else that was very, very popular with the S24 series, and that was Galaxy AI. That also got better, but right before I get into AI, I do want to say that's IP68 dust and water resistance. I mean, isn't that like a downgrade? But now getting into Galaxy AI, there's this new thing with Google Gemini, which is probably going to go to other Android phones, considering it is Google, and Google likes to work with other Android companies. So it definitely won't be exclusive to the Galaxy S25 Ultra for long. But there is this new thing where if you hold down your power button, it's like you get basically Siri, or in Samsung case, Bixby. It can recognize more natural tone of speech, like with Bixby. But here's the key thing. If you want to do two things that involves two different apps, you can say something like, "Hey Gemini, can you search up all of the events nearby and put them in my calendar?" It'll do that for you. Notice that's two different apps. You have Google or Chrome, whichever one you're using, and you have the calendar app. And the AI will do that for you. In some cases, it'll have some flaws, but it's better than having to search up the nearby events and then going into your calendar and inputting them yourself, or doing two separate commands. So that is better. And it's not just that, it can do that with many, many other apps. So it's like all of the borders with the apps are now open. That's good. So that means things will run more seamless, and I mean, that's an upgrade. A lot of the time with these phones, we barely realize that they're getting better and better, and most of the time they just change a couple of specs, like just bump it up a little, and other times they change the design like what they did with this one. But at least that's something kind of interesting that you also have briefings, and they call that feature Now Brief. Basically, if your phone sees that you have something scheduled, like an outside event that's outside of your house, and it sees that it's gonna rain or something like that, it's gonna remind you to bring an umbrella, or it's going to remind you of certain tasks. Like, let's say if you're somebody who consistently forgets, that will be very useful to you. It will remind you of tasks if it sees that you're not doing it, like maybe a Zoom meeting. And it can also read through your emails, which is a little putting me on the edge, because like if it can read your emails, it can read your personal emails. Now imagine something happens with the AI, like what's gonna happen with that? What if I don't know. So that does put me on the edge. Like they say, technology is a black box. Hopefully that does not go wrong, because that's going to be one of the worst tech fails in the world. But with this reading emails thing, if you're that type of person who has lots of emails, like important emails, and you forget some of them, it can remind you of emails if it reads the email and sees that it's important too. So that is very helpful. Creepy, but helpful. There's this new feature in the cameras called Advanced Pro AI Visual Engine. It's like basically when you're taking a picture and then you have it in your gallery, you can go into your gallery and then choose to upscale that video. But with this, while you're taking the picture, AI is upscaling the video or photo for you, so you don't have to do that before. And that means if you need the photo right away, you can use it right away. You don't gotta go into your gallery and upscale it. So that's very useful. As for the camera specs, it still has the same 200 megapixel wide camera, but the biggest upgrade of all was the 50 megapixel ultra wide camera, which for the longest time was 12 megapixels. Now that was like the downside to the Samsung cameras, and now with this new 50 megapixel camera, your ultra wides are basically just as good as your normal videos, your normal wide videos, and all of your normal zoom videos too. Speaking of the zoom videos, it still goes up to only 100 times zoom. The selfie camera is still 12 megapixels. I mean, that's an upgrade, but at the same time, it's not. So at least your selfies will look somewhat better though. Most people won't notice the difference. I probably wouldn't. But hey, if the paper says it's better, it's better. But one of the biggest camera upgrades is the new nightography. Well, that's not new, but like it has 10-bit HDR. So that means your night videos will be more vivid, and that means they'll lose noise and grain, so they'll look better, significantly better. There's also this new object aware engine in your photos and videos. So if you're taking like a video or a photo in portrait mode, it'll recognize moving background objects or still background objects, and it'll also recognize you. So that means when you have blur on, it'll automatically like enhance the background, so you'll still be very much in focus, but your background will still be blurred and it'll unfocus a lot less. And the blurred background in the S24 Ultra series and before had a little bit of graininess, but that reduces some of the blurred graininess. So that's definitely another big upgrade. I will definitely eventually start blurring my background, so when I need the portrait mode, that will definitely work. This also helps with macro and ultra wide shots, so once again it removes the graininess and noise in the photos. And not only that, it can also record an 8K log video. And for those who don't know, log video is basically when it kind of looks very bad, like plain like that. It's called like, it's like raw, pro raw photo, like pro raw res. So there's basically no color, no HDR, but for those pro editors or those who have pro editors editing their videos for them, it allows for better like colors, like when you're editing. In other words, better color grading. So that's going to be very useful too. It already had log, but the 8K got a lot better. Now, last year, I was very surprised to learn that with the S24 Ultra series, they didn't run on a Snapdragon chip, they actually ran on a Qualcomm chip. I was very surprised to hear this. I thought that Snapdragon was basically Samsung's flagship chip. So this year, they actually came back to Snapdragon, and I'm very glad to hear that. And now they have the new Snapdragon 8 Elite, which is present in lots of other Android phones. But what they did, they customized this one specifically for Galaxy. So they made sure that this was fine-tuned for specifically for the S25 series. So that means it's a lot faster. The battery is still 5,000 milliamp hours, and that's a little upsetting to hear considering that the OnePlus 13 has a 6,000 milliamp hour battery, and they made it slimmer. Most people are gonna say, oh, it's because they were trying to make their S25 Ultra slimmer, which it is slimmer. It's definitely slimmer than the S24 Ultra. But if OnePlus was able to make their device slimmer and have a bigger battery, I'm pretty sure Samsung can do it too. But they claim that with the new chip, there's better screen saving. So that means you get 1 hour of video playback, 1 hour more of video playback, making it 31 hours of video playback, which they claim, but it's always an hour or two, in some cases 3 hours less. But if it's bigger on paper, then it's gonna be bigger in real life too. So that's definitely better. You still have the same 256 gigabytes, 512 gigabytes, and 1 terabyte storage options. But let's be completely honest, most of the time nobody needs more than that when it comes to their smartphones, unless they're constantly recording. But then you can get a portable smartphone SSD. Like there's some that literally attach to the smartphone, so you don't gotta continuously disconnect it and put it in your bag or your pocket. But like they say, it's definitely better to have more internal storage than having to rely on external storage. It definitely doesn't help that these smartphones are starting to not be compatible with micro SD cards, which we all know were goated. Not better than SSDs actually, but definitely goated when you want small space. I'm kind of surprised that there's these like big chunky storage like SSDs when you have micro SD. If I'm being completely honest, if it wasn't for all the perks that came with SSD, I would not be using micro SD. Getting back to the cameras, there's this new feature called Best Face, where you can take burst shots and then it'll pick your best face in all of those burst shots. Well, it won't technically pick it for you, but you can pick it and you can decide which face you like best out of all of those burst shots. Now, possibly one of the biggest upgrades was One UI 7. We've already seen this before, but now we've fully seen it. It's not a beta anymore. This is actually One UI 7. And the biggest thing in One UI 7 is the new Now bar, which you could basically say is the dynamic island, but at the bottom of the screen on your home screen. And when you're logged in, it's in your status bar. But it's basically dynamic island, and it's in ways a little bit better. Not even a little bit better, in some ways a lot better, because we all know that even though the S25 Ultra and iPhone 16 Pro Max both have 6.9-inch displays, the S25 Ultra, just like how it was with the iPhone 15 Pro Max and S24 Ultra, the S25 Ultra screen looks a lot bigger than the iPhone 16 Pro Max's screen because of that pill that's in the top of the screen. It's always there, it expands. The Now bar expands too, but that's when you need it to expand. So it's kind of nice to know that it's not bothering any of your screen space. It's the same basic classic camera punch. You know something I realized? iPhone kind of like, not even kind of. The reason for the dynamic island was to hide the camera. I guess they felt that it was more modern or something. But not just the camera, there's these sensors that are in it. Now, Apple has never fully disclosed this, but pay attention to your iPhone 14 Pro Max and higher. You'll notice that if you look closely, the same way you can see the camera, if you look closely, you'll see these like little dots, like circles that look like they're cameras, but it's not really cameras. Those are actually the sensors that make the iPhone's camera look very good, like a selfie camera. And I feel like because they added so much of those, they decided to block all of those, like, or hide all of those with the dynamic island. So I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons they leaned for that. As I said before, the anti-reflective display also got an upgrade, and the new chip allows it to be a lot smoother. The new chip allows it to be a lot smoother, which helps with these like animations and customization. It's a lot faster. If you guys, I don't know if you guys have seen the like status bar. Most of the time these features get copied, so once again, let's see if Samsung is gonna stay at the top. But as of now, they are definitely at the top. A little early to say they're the best phone of the year because we have not seen the other phones, but right now they are definitely at the top. That was it for this video. I've probably had a lot more to say, so I talked a lot more than I usually do. But as usual, per usual, if you have any questions for me, put it down in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share this video with anybody that you know will enjoy it if you enjoyed it. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.